Hey folks, Matt here from Projects and Adventures. And first, hit subscribe, hit the like button. Maybe one of these days we'll break 200 subscribers. If not, well, what do you do? So, once again, this is going to be kind of more of a prepper type video because even though it's been a mild winter so far in Minnesota, I get my cast off tomorrow and I can't put a lot of weight on my arm until well after that. So I thought I'd follow along with last week's video on kind of what my basic idea was. And I was doing some digging and I found my copy of How to Survive the End of the World as We Know It, which made me start thinking about a lot more about the supply chains. And then, of course, like I said before, COVID really reinforcing that. And I know you can, as far as information, if the grid goes down or if once again we have a massive interruption of the supply chains, or if World War III finally spreads, like if we're not able to get a handle on that, which who knows. There's some really good information out there, not just in electronic form, but in paper form. I'm kind of old fashioned like that. I know you can download a lot of this stuff onto devices, put it inside of a Faraday cage or a metal box or something and use it if needed in electronic form. But that also involves having a way to charge up your power. Inevitably, if things really took a turn for the worst, you'd have people that are dumb enough to go out there and burn gas out of their vehicle charging their phone. If the electrical grid would have issues, don't do that. Find a different way to charge your phone. There's really easy power banks you can get that are solar charged. I've got a couple of them. One of them I'm not real impressed with. I think I dropped it once, and the thing's capacity is just not there like it was. So I'm trying to figure out if there's anything I can do with it or not. But I would definitely recommend this one. It's got some basic information in it. It's How to Survive the Underworld as You Know It by James Rawls. I really liked reading it. Like I said, it opened up me to thinking more about this. Not just does it talk about why at the beginning, but it also has sections on medical supplies, firearms for self-defense, fuel, home power, gardens, livestock, medical supplies, and he actually has brands and stuff that are good to buy. So it's definitely a book I would recommend. It's not real expensive. Like I got it off Amazon. But I would definitely recommend that one. A lot of good information. So let's talk about a couple of other ones that I think it's good to have something for your area. Now, some of these may not apply to you because I live in a different area. I'm in Minnesota area, so the plants up here are going to be different. The things that will grow well. We found out this year that potatoes grow great, but when the pocket gophers and the little voles and stuff get into your garden, they will wipe those things out in less than a week. We had 40 plants, I think, potato plants, maybe 50 planted. And I think we got a small box of potatoes because we saw a couple of pocket gopher mounds pop up, and we looked around a little bit for the runs, and we didn't find them right away. So we didn't follow up on it. We should have. I've tried the traps, 3 different kinds of traps, had no success with that. My success with the pocket gophers has been I dig down, find the hole, put just about 8-10 pellets, maybe 15 pellets of decon in the run, put a little piece of cardboard over the top of it, then cover the run back up with a foot of dirt. And the mounds go away quickly. So don't ignore the pocket gopher mounds when they get into your garden or get close to your garden. Take care of them right away. But I have a couple that I bought that are specific to North America and some specific to us. One of them is edible wild plants. Looked through this a lot. It's got sections on a lot of common plants and common uses for them. Like Cattails, you just look at it as a weed. There's a lot of ways to use it. Acorns, I mean, there's all sorts of things that can be used for food or various uses, and this will tell you where they're commonly found, what their names are, describes them, and I like the fact that it's got color pictures in there too, so for help identifying, because you don't want to eat the wrong mushroom because that will kill you. So a lot of good information on distribution of different things that can be used for food. I mean, dandelions is a great food source as long as you haven't sprayed it with weed killer. I don't believe they're even native to North America. I think they were imported as a food source, but you can get salad mixes and stuff with dandelion greens in them. So this has a whole bunch of different things. I mean, it also talks about not just things that are good to eat and good to harvest, but also things like stinging nettle where you want to avoid some of them. Although there's not easy, but there's ways of preparing it where you can actually use even stuff that you would normally avoid. So I thought this was a great book. I haven't read it cover to cover, but I've done a lot of browsing through it, looking at different plants. Like I said, the cattails really, if you're in a wet area or if you got a swamp nearby, there's always those nearby. So I had that one. That one is by Thomas Ellis and Peter Dykman. So Edible Wild Plants. That's a good one to have. This is a basic one, Beginner's Guide to Foraging Wild Plants and Medicine Herbs. Very, very small. It's only about 60 pages. Some real basic things in it. I didn't like it as much because as far as identifying things, all the pictures are in black and white. But it's got a lot of common things. Like I said, it amazed me that cattails are actually edible. The root of them, all sorts of different parts of them can be used at different times. The seeds at the top. Anyway, so that one's a little bit more basic, but it is there if you're looking for just something to glance through. If you're talking long term, grid down type situation, you're going to have to find out a way to deal with certain things, and it's always good to have a book on how to build an outhouse. Especially if you're out in the country, you can find a spot where you can put this away from the house a little bit, but this has just 3 or 4 designs in it, some stories, construction tips, nothing real in depth, but it's a square rectangle with a roof and a hole in the ground pretty much. So once again, it's a pretty cheap book. You can pick it up thrift books or wherever, by Bob Carey. So that one I got a copy of just in case I ever had to dig myself an outhouse or build an outhouse. The next one is if you're out in the country and you have the room to do it, how to build a root cellar. Root cellars worked for thousands of years for storing food. Before refrigeration, this is how humankind stored its food, underground where the temperature is more moderated. I like this book because, it has a whole bunch of stuff on harvesting times and kind of the ideas behind where to dig and how to do it. There's a lot of stuff like that. But at the end of it, there are 10 plans for different designs for root cellars based on if you're going to put it next to a wall of the house. And there's little diagrams on how to dig it out, how to backfill it, what to backfill it with, how to construct it, how to vent it, because you want to vent it, you want to get the water moved away from it. So there's 10 plans on there that would help you design based on where you're going to put it. And then it also has some recipes at the back, and then some advice on how to dry potatoes and produce that you'd be putting in there. So I definitely recommend this one. It's by Julie Fryer, Your New Root Cellar, the complete guide to your new root cellar. So, if it ever came to a point where you lost refrigeration because you didn't have power, and like I said, in our area, they're getting ready to shut down the coal plant, which I think is dumb, and they're replacing it with 1,000 acres of solar panels. which don't do a lot, like I said, in the dark or when they're covered with snow. We do get a lot of snow in Minnesota, not quite as much as the Great Lakes, but we get a decent amount. I'm not against solar. I have solar panels. I think they have their place, but you have the ability to generate load when the sun ain't shining and the wind isn't blowing. Moving on from let's go to this first. So I also have this one, which is fascinating. This was originally published in 1912. And I like this book because this is talking about how they built things, 120, 140 years ago, 200 years ago. It has basic farm construction devices. So if you don't have a lot of knowledge of construction, it's making workbenches, making tools, using a grindstone. I mean, there's toolboxes, soldering, how to use a steel square if you've never done that. I mean, there's a lot of knowledge in here that they don't teach in school anymore, and nobody teaches their kids. Let's face it, the only thing kids do now is go watch TikTok videos on cell phones. I'm not against cell phones. They have their place. But this is knowledge here that is slowly dying and being lost to time. And if the grid goes down, or like I said, if World War III breaks out and there are more important things going on than trying to get the next load of Twinkies out to Walmart, you're going to need some of this knowledge. And it's good to have it in paper form, not just electronic form. I mean, they even have convenient layouts for houses, for farmhouses, for tips on house building, gates, fences, setting posts, easily opened gates, tent setup, how to build poles or carriers for, like, if you don't have a wheelbarrow or something like that. It even has plans for how to build a wheelbarrow and skids and wire tighteners and orchard ladders and all that. I think this is a great book. Like I said, it's knowledge that's slowly being lost. Get yourself a copy of it. It's originally published in 1912, and it's written by, it's covered up. Anyway, it's called Handy Farm Devices, published by Allgrove Publishing out of Canada. So that's a really good one. I like that one. I also like this one. This is 40 projects for your backyard homestead. A little more modern. Talks about solar. Talks about plumbing and wiring for backyard stuff. It talks about if you have to replace nozzles on hydrant or water for outside water, how to get it freeze proof. Basic plumbing skills, basic building for beehives, aquaponics and hydroponics if you want to grow food that way, wind and solar, building sheds, big section on that. Housing chickens is a big section. Fencing and pens, using PVC and stuff. So gates and fences, so garden structure. So good. I don't think quite as good as that other farm devices one from a while ago, because this definitely takes more modern tools to build. But it'd be worth picking up, I think. I also have 2 books on survival. One's an older one. This was written in the 60s. So in the height of the Cold War, has a lot of talking about self-preservation, camping, let me give you some of the sections here. Too bright, too cold, too hot, it's, wait a minute. So anyway, it's talking about first aid, how to avoid, being spotted, how to cross a river if you're exhausted, how to use clothing for insulation if you're swimming, if you're damp, water purifying, crowd hazards, what's the bad things about being in crowds, what's good things about being in crowds, a lot of different information. So this one's good. This one's better. Everybody should have a copy of this one. This thing is huge. You can see I got pages bookmarked in it, different things I found interesting. I'm not going to say I read the entire thing because there is a lot of information in here, but this is the SAS Survival Handbook. This has information on everything from, you know, how fire kills, if a person's on, bomb detection, terrorism, self-defense techniques, home security, dangerous fish, survival at sea. It has a basic section on medicinal plants and different medicine and dehydration, cold, loading a stretcher, so what to do if somebody's not breathing. Clothing, waterproofing, footwear, goggles, needles, thread, tools, kindling, fuel, building fires, Arctic fishing. Anyway, tons of information in this. Almost so much that, you'd have a hard time remembering it all, which is why you want a paper copy of it. Once again, it was probably $15, I think. $21 brand new. I think I got it used for probably half that. Used bookstores are great. So those are ones I definitely recommend. There's a brand new one out there that I'm probably going to order a copy of. I saw it the other day on another channel. The illustrations are really out there, but the information looks like it's pretty interesting and pretty good. I also have a Homesteader's Guide to Raising Small Livestock. And that's from like sheep, goats, chickens, rabbits. Rabbits are a very good food source. They breed like rabbits. But you got to be careful because the meat is really lean. So this has pigs, turkeys, chickens, rabbits, goats. Basic information on how to raise them, what's required to keep them. Good info to have, especially if you manage to get branched out into that. But once again, that's something that's going to take some time to set up beforehand. I also had a book on chicken coops. Wasn't quite as impressed with it because I am going to build a chicken coop this spring, and I was hoping this would give me a little bit more info on it. But all of these chicken coops are for maybe 3, 4, 5 chickens tops. This isn't anything. I'm hoping to build one for 20 or 30. So this didn't prove to be quite as useful as I thought it would. But if your backyard in the city and your city allows you to have a certain number of chickens, this would give you 14 designs on how to build them for those areas. So once again, cell phones are great. Electronics are great. I've got a computer, I've got a laptop, I've got a tablet. You can download a lot of this stuff in electronic format, be able to search it real easily, and pull the information up that way. But if you don't have a way to recharge, what good does it do you? Most people are going to burn their phone battery out in maybe a day or two. And if you don't have a way, to recharge it from solar, or if, the power's down for longer than those couple days, how are you going to access that information? If I have a paper copy of it, barring a fire or a major flood like North Carolina, certain things you can't fully plan for. But barring the destruction of the book itself, I always have that information on hand. I can go to it, I can review it if I'm forgetting something, and look it up. So the upshot is find some good books. Like I said, I recommend this one. I definitely recommend the SAS Survival Guide. It's a lot of good information. Is it perfect? Probably not, because I'm sure the guy's very well trained, but a lot of this stuff is people's opinions on it, and everybody has opinions on what works and what doesn't. It's based on your area, based on your environment. Are you in the country? Are you in the city? Are you in Minnesota or are you in Florida? There's different things to take into mind. But get those basic books so that you have that information, and it's not an electronic form where, like, even if there was an EMP, you lose your electronics unless they're in a like a Faraday cage. At least that's what the common knowledge is they think what would happen. So get yourself some paper copies of it. Research stuff that's good for your area, and it's not something that you need to panic about. So a lot of the channels that are pushing the panic, I'm not interested in that, but I am interested in seeing people actually look ahead and go, what would it take, if a natural disaster happens, in order to keep my family or myself, if you don't have a family, food, water, and a way to protect yourself until help is able to come, or your neighbors are able to help you, or society gets back on its feet. So just something to think about, and we'll see y'all next time.